Hello everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar, the Metro to Cloud Metro Evolution, Drivers, Requirements, and Progress, Best Practices for Your Journey, sponsored by NEC, Juniper, and Telco Columbus. Before we begin, I will cover a few housekeeping items. On the left-hand side of your screen is the Q&A. If you have any questions during the webcast, please type your question into the Q&A box and submit your questions to our speakers. All questions will be saved, so if we don't get to answer you, we may follow up via email. At the bottom of your audience console are multiple application widgets you can use. If you have any technical difficulties, please click on the yellow help widget. Here you can find answers to common questions. A copy of today's slide deck is available for download in the green resource list widget. Near the end of today's presentation, please take 1 minute to complete the survey that's open on your screen. Your feedback is extremely helpful. An on-demand version of the webcast will be available about 1 day after the event and can be accessed using the same audience link that was sent to you earlier today. I would now like to turn the event over to Heavy Reading's Senior Principal Analyst, Sterling Perrin.
Thank you, Samuel. Hi, and welcome everybody to today's webinar on the Metro to Cloud Metro Evolution. As Samuel said, sponsored by NEC, Juniper, and Tele Columbus. So we actually have a lot of content to get through today, great lineup. We have two partners on the webinar, NEC and Juniper, as well as a network operator perspective with Tele Columbus. Looking forward to what they have to say on their Metro evolution, as well as a set of survey data that Heavy Reading conducted and completed in May. So the format will be presentations of the survey data, some of the highlights from me, and then participation from our speakers, really lending their insights and adding to the discussion. And we'll go through the course of the hour, as you can see here, really structured largely around the study itself, which included network modernization, looking at features and functions, network automation drill down, a little bit of coherent pluggable optics drill down, and then questions and answers at the end. So please do ask. We have a great lineup here. We hope to have about 10 minutes at the end for your questions, so always look forward to that. Let me just give a little bit of insight on the survey. If you download the white paper, which has been published, it has more information on demographics, but just at a high level. Survey was completed in May, 84 network operators globally. This is a year 2 version of the project, so in some places throughout, I'll compare results from 2023 and 2022. But a good representation from large operators with over $1 billion of revenue, and a decent mix of geographic regions, North America, a little over half, and then the other regions, as you can see on the pie chart on the right. Helping me through the content and lending their insights as we go through, Michael Fränkle, CTO of Tele Columbus. He'll introduce himself and his company in a moment, but a German network operator who's going through network modernization. So great to have Michael. Hiroko Ashida from NEC. She's Global Xhaul Strategy Manager. And then last but not least, Tim Pinnell, Senior Director of Product Management with Juniper Networks. So let each of the speakers introduce themselves. I think Tele Columbus may spend a few extra minutes introducing their company here, and then brief introductions from the other two, and then we'll delve into the content. But Michael, hi, welcome, and great to have you. Like to hear a bit more on Tele Columbus.
Thanks for having me. We are Tele Columbus. We are number 2 cable operator in Germany in terms of homes connected. Our footprint is more or less across Germany, with at the moment strongly driven by DOCSIS, HFC infrastructure, and we have been starting a couple of years back converting that HFC plant into a GPON FTTH plant. We have a customer base of around about 3.3 million. You can see our homes connect in the gigabit speeds is already 2.3 million. We have 4.8 million homes passed. Our network is more or less in urban areas. We are owned by acquisition vehicle of Morgan Stanley Infrastructure, the internet. And yeah, that's how we are. We're around about 500 million in revenue. And again, our mission next year is to convert the existing HFC DOCSIS 3.1 plant into a scalable GPON fiber plant, which is more or less positioned in the urban areas in Germany. We're not one of the greenfielders in suburban and rural areas. We are mostly playing in urban areas. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Yeah, looking forward to it. And next, Ashita-san from NEC. I think people are familiar with NEC, but maybe a little bit about yourself and how NEC fits into this topic.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Hiroka Ashida, and I'm in charge of the solution strategy for the transport network. So first, I'd like to say thank you for everybody. I mean the audience and also the speakers, team, Starling and Michael together with us, NEC. So NEC is a multinational company covering both of the IT and the network domains. And in the transport domain, what we do is we have the long experience in more than 150 countries as a global system integrator. And what we offer is a multi-domain and also multi-vendor integration service collaborating with the global partners. And one of the most important partners for us is Juniper Networks, with whom we are serving for the global tier 1 operators, including the Tele Columbus here. So today, I'd like to share some insights as a global system integrator point of view. So hope you can learn something from today's session. So that's all from my side. So I'd like to pass to Starling again.
Thank you. Looking forward to your insights as well. Tim, Juniper, welcome. Good to have you back, Tim.
Thanks very much, Sterling. So yes, I mean, I think given the adoption of Juniper Networks solutions by probably most top companies across all market segments, whether that be cloud or service provider or enterprise or public sector, I think probably most of the audience is going to be familiar with the company. In terms of strategy and direction that we're taking, I think it's probably fair to say that we're living in a time of fairly exponential change, a lot of pressure on the industry as a whole because of that. And that's what's driving our strategy, that change, starting first and foremost in the cloud, and then taking those compelling cloud economics, which are resulting in big IT transformation and disruptive effects on the industry. So really taking that and then dedicating ourselves to trying to simplify those network operations and driving better experiences really for the end customers. That's kind of a North Star, if you like. And so a lot of what we focus our solutions on is, trying to deliver therefore the insight, automation, security, AI to drive those business results and those end user experiences. So hopefully some of that will come out with what we share, and definitely looking forward to trying to see how we're going in terms of the feedback from the industry in your survey. Very much looking forward to seeing that and understanding how well we're aligning as a company. So thank you.
Yes, exactly. So let's jump right into it. So network modernization. Now, let me go through a couple slides here, some data points from the survey, and then we'll bring in Michael from Tele Columbus to give his real world experience with doing just this. We asked about network modernization business drivers, and then the next slide will show use case drivers, so kind of from two different angles. When we asked about business drivers, 51% said meeting traffic growth requirements is the top driver for their network modernization efforts. Also a strong focus on increasing network reliability and resilience, as well as lowering total cost of ownership. Sustainability, it's interesting, a lot of talk, certainly this year, around sustainability. Obviously a critical topic. As a primary driver for metro network modernization, it didn't really resonate with this group. Maybe we can debate whether the audience is off base here or not. But our view as a primary driver, probably not the leading reason. But of course, as you get into the modernization, then this becomes in the mix, certainly. But primary, we are seeing a lot of interest in resilience, cost, and traffic requirements. In terms of the specific use cases leading to modernization, 5G and edge cloud are the top two ranking. should not be a surprise to most people who have been following the industry over the past several years. 5G and edge are certainly very interrelated initiatives within network operators. They tend to be doing both together, one helping the other. We did, as I mentioned up front, we did the same survey last year, and 5G and edge in that order were the top two, so pretty consistent from the use cases that are driving network operators to modernize. In terms of where they are in their evolution, the majority, just over 2/3 of the 84 we surveyed, saying it's a work in progress, with 30% saying projects are planned but have not yet begun. I do caution on these. It tends to be a bit just the way we do our surveys, which is email solicitation and a self-select model. Operators that are interested in doing the topic of the survey tend to respond. We tend to get a little bit more aggressive and advanced group than the entire population as a whole. But 68% is quite a large number, actually pretty similar to what we had last year in the survey. So of this audience, 68% are in the midst, and that's going to be reflected in the other surveys results we show throughout the webinar. With that, let me bring in Michael. Really happy to have you here today. Always great to get a network operator perspective. And I, myself, and the audience would like to hear your evolution, what you're doing, and kind of the thinking and reasoning behind your metro evolution. So I'll let you take it from here, Michael.
Well, thank you so much. I think, coming from a sort of a nearly 40-year history, you can quite easily imagine that there is quite some legacy stacked up on the IT as well as on the technology side. So this is a little bit our challenge. So we are not, again, a company which has been born in the last 10, 20 years. There's a heavy legacy on the infrastructure as well as on the service domain. So therefore, it's really about simplification, unification, reducing complexity, and driving automation. I think this is the task to go for. I think in our specific case, we have currently 4 historically developed and grown-up networks which have been merged in various M&A processes. As you can also imagine, never really cleaned up and never really ticked off. Therefore, we have collected some significant technology debt on both the core network but also on the IT systems. We do still lots of upgrade stuff on a manual basis, which of course takes cost and takes time. And this plays on the access as well on the backhaul and backbone. And every, extension and upgrading of everything and anything, is a pretty complex operation. What we would like to have on the right-hand side is to really drive a homogeneous plant, where you have one design, one perimeter, one KPI, one process for change, incident, and problem management. Of course, you would like to have adherence to core processes on the infrastructure as well as on the service deployment side. This, again, if we do this right, we can very fastly, in a very competitive market, deploy gigaspeed access, also migrate customers to a better, performance. And so we have launched this project to do this, where Juniper helps us to basically create a foundation, to build a liquid backhaul, to have flexibility on the capacity deployment out there in the field, but also drive automation quite heavily to become an efficient network operator, despite or even because we have this legacy, right? So, and I think this domain is not only the infrastructure and service on the network side. There's of course a very strong connection to the OSS and BSS layer when it comes to the traditional IT systems, right? So this is again a little bit our task, and how we do it and how we intend to do it is on the next page. I hope we can, let's be there. Yeah, so for us, the cloud metro solution we are working together with Juniper and NEC is a key catalyst for our company and business transformation, right? So again, as I said, it's about harmonization, it's about complexity reduction, and it's about creating transparency. These are our key drivers. So that's sort of where we would like to go to a next generation metro system where we can deploy gigaspeed services, we are also actually deploying or helping some mobile operators to offload on our gigabit enabled network, so which again helps us also to serve as a backhaul operator on fiber. As we are in a lot of urban houses, we can just plug in a fiber line in the rooftop of a radio base station. It's about unified metro network for all sort of services, including residential B2C services. So it's cable and fiber. So it's DOCSIS and GPON. It's about B2B business services. It's about wholesale, whole buy, which we also deploying in our portfolio. And it's about creating some future-proofness regarding infrastructure, but also regarding the scalability of the services, right? So the services and network access function will be virtualized, will be disaggregated. We are using quite intensively remote PHY on the DOCSIS plant. We are driving a transformation to have more capacity. Our traffic demands are increasing per year. You see a 20 to 30% increase on total traffic per annum. We want to have a high reliability, i.e. increased resilience. We need to and we want to advance the levels of standardization. So use default product settings, default service settings, and which we hope will lead us to a lower level of complexity and to critical fundamentals for automation, right? So it's pretty manual today. We need to and we want to go to a highly automated deployment mechanism and operating mechanism. If we all do this right, with the Metro Cloud concept, we hope to have a smart, efficient, and liquid capacity provisioning. If we are flipping a HFC customer to FTTH, you have immediately an uplift of traffic. We would like to yield harvesting and cater for the increasing traffic on the existing infrastructures, be it on the fiber lines, but also on the backhaul and backbone lines. Why is this? It's because we have new services and a growing wireline access plant happening, which very finely coexists with 5G services on mobile. We have uplink and downlink upgrades on the plan, and we are driving heavily the conversion from HFC to GPON. So this is all the basically the key drivers, the key parameters, which basically we believe Cloud Metro is a per se ideal catalyst for the transformation ahead of us.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Let me just make one point I should have made. Back to the use case driver. So you would fall more into one thing we have seen from 2022 to 23. I didn't mention is that broadband is actually rising up. This is a global mix. So depending on who the operator is, the use case drivers will be different. If you're not a mobile operator, the mobile will be less so. But in the aggregate, the broadband is certainly rising up as a driver. I was thinking that more in terms of the U.S. operators with the BEAD funding, but I think you would be a case of that as well. I think also, Michael, I don't know if you took the survey, you probably did not, but you're a good representative of the results we're getting in. I think you'll see some commonality in your own views as we go through. If you want to comment on them, any of them, by the way, feel free to jump in. Features and functions, but thank you for that. And I know we'll bring you back for the Q&A. And again, if you want to comment as we go, feel free. Features and functions of importance to network operators on the global level. So we asked first about features, capabilities of a product, and then the second one I'll show you is looking again from a different angle at the vendor attributes. So you get kind of different angles on the topic this way. It's quite interesting. In terms of features that operators are looking for, network security topping the list, should not be too surprising in this day and age. Interesting network slicing, again, a strong mobile component in this audience who took the survey. Network slicing ranking second in terms of what they're looking at, and really statistically tied higher speed transport, getting to those drivers of interest in capacity increases, and Michael addressed this as well. So getting higher speed interfaces, as well as next generation protocols, things like we gave examples, EPN, MPLS, segment routing, all within scope, and then service assurance are really the top top drivers, along with automation, 48%, and that's another one that's rising. I know Michael made some comments about that. And we also have a whole section kind of drilling into automation in a bit more detail as we go through. The other angle we addressed the features and functions was the vendor attributes. This was quite interesting. Openness and flexibility, 51%, was the top choice, followed by fairly close product reliability. And then lowest price and security. We already talked about security as a feature. Security also from the vendor, kind of a different angle, quite important as well. But those four are really the top of the list in terms of how they're looking at the vendors. We did the same question in 2022, so it's interesting to compare results year to year. We're seeing openness rising. It actually rose to the top this year. It was lower on the list last year in the mix, but lower. We're also seeing that the lowest price as a networking vendor attribute rising up. We know there's a lot of challenges this year with CapEx and 5G spend and trying to shift towards modernization. So not too surprising in that sense that we'll start to see lower price become more of a point that they'll hammer the vendors. But the openness and flexibility is quite interesting, as that's been talked about for years, but as number one, it's quite interesting. With that, let me bring in Ashita-san as the systems integrator. You're looking at all of this stuff, so let you share some insights.
All right. So about the feature requirement, I think as Starley-san explained, currently the driver for the transformation of the metro network is more about the 5G together with the residential broadband that Michael explained. And actually, when we first thought about the 5G transport network requirements, maybe say 2020 or before that, we thought it's more about how to adapt to new interface, maybe like 25G for the front haul, or maybe 500, maybe the 100G for the access, or 400G for core and metro, as well as supporting the time synchronization for the time-sensitive applications. But what we see as the demands right now are much more than that, I think. So especially one of the main reasons is because of the rise of the edge computing, because the edge needs a new architecture and also the new features. For example, let's say security, because there is new network border in the edge side. Also, because the network gets more and more complex, necessity of simplification, for example, the protocol like segment routing or automation or network convergence gets high demands at this moment. So because of these new demands, I believe traditional metro needs a transformation. And in case of us, we take the holistic approach to embrace all of the requirements in a single solution suite called the NEC Value Added Excel Solution Suites. And especially from these solution suites, the most important solution for the metro transformation is cloud metro solutions that Michael already did a heads up. And I think the detail, like say, maybe Tim, you can explain from now.
Thank you, Ashita-san. So if we just jump to the next slide, is not that I necessarily need to talk too much to it, but just as a reference point, I think I can move it on. Oh, thank you very much. Okay, brilliant. So this is the cloud metro solution that we launched last summer. Just highlighting in the slide there some of the newest developments. And fortunately, my job as a product manager, it's nice to see that we still see very close alignment with what are the key driving motivations we've seen in the survey results. So that's nice. One of the interesting things I saw was sustainability was seen as quite low. And you note that on this slide that we highlight sustainability in all aspects of the solution. So that seems to be some disconnect. Well, I think it depends how the respondents have interpreted sustainability. Do you consider it from one narrow perspective, or perhaps more broadly, consider it about being able to do things like sustaining the cloud metro network, so operations, systems, architecture. And if you think about it, therefore, you're covering things like traffic growth, reliability, security, convergence, new services requirements, things like edge cloud, upgrades, etc. So all of those other factors that seem to be higher, all that will be all covered by that consideration of sustainability. Or you can think about sustainability of the business. So you're delivering against things like new customer requirements, meeting service metrics, again, reliability, latency, and the like, new service types, new business aspects such as revenue growth, profitability, of course, which TCO is a factor, cost of equipment becomes a factor. So again, that's another consideration of sustainability, which brings in those other elements. And of course, the final piece, which a lot of people think about, is sustainability of the planet, right? Of course, that's including things like power, but also you're covering aspects such as the carbon footprint of the product build cost, but also things like product longevity in the network. If you think about what causes us to cycle through products, and every time we have to replace a product, that's a sustainability cost on the planet. Those regularity of product upgrades, they're driven by things like component obsolescence, inability of those existing designs to support new features or services, inability to support higher capacities, inability to support required or even optimum service densities, and so on. So there's a lot of different aspects of sustainability. So if we kind of look back at this solution, first of all, from an operational perspective, Paragon Automation, we're delivering sustainability essentially by giving time back to the network operators. And we pair that then with artificial intelligence, leveraging the MIST technology that we had as part of our enterprise solution, but moving that to the metro space. Then on the product side, you've basically got that suite of products, everything from the smallest CSRs all the way through to the modular systems. And we look at, complexity was mentioned there. We look at reducing complexity, just building a family that's completely interlocking from end to end, same software feature support across all, and then you just pick your size that makes sense for that particular node. And then, of course, collapsing layers in the network, again, is important for sustainable cloud metro design. So whether that's IP and optical being collapsed with the new ZR Plus optics, smart optics enabling things like the PON OLT integration or TDM integration, this is all about being efficient in the design. And then finally, from an IP services fabric perspective, yes, this is what a lot of the networks are driving towards. And we tried to redefine what that baseline should be. So bringing in not just networking capabilities like network slicing, enhanced services, with those simpler protocols that we've developed in the industry, like segment routing, like EVPN, but also adding in that integrated security, service awareness, service assurance, so that your infrastructure becomes a quality center for that, again, that better end user experience. So again, sustainability from my perspective, it depends how you consider it, but actually it touches all of those other aspects that we see there as being important factors in the design and in the vendor selection. Hopefully that made sense. It was a bit of a long spiel, but that's kind of my view of sustainability when people talk to me about it. It covers so many different aspects.
Good, yeah, good points. That sustainability statistic was a bit of a curious one. It could be, it's such a broad term. I think the operators, or at least the ones that are responding to our surveys, who are in quite technical roles, tend to be maybe down a level into the work. And so if you look at this slide here, what are the things they're focusing on? And what we'll talk about, automation, also identified on the NEC slide, the security, which resonated extremely high in the survey, highest among attributes, and then the coherent pluggable optics, which has a big impact on OpEx. So yeah, interesting. We'll keep following that one, but maybe we'll word things a bit different and kind of parse that through. But certainly the automation, the pluggable optics, and the security are all quite critical based on the results. We're going to drill down into two of those right now with the survey results, as well as bringing in both Tim and Ashita-san. First, looking at automation, both of you highlighted, and again, also quite important. In this survey, and we've done other surveys focused specifically just on transport network automation, quite an area with a lot to it today. Let me share some of the highlights. One on the drivers, and then the challenges, and then a look at the main use cases and applications that the audience had identified. So primary drivers for implementing automation in the metro network, three of them really rose to the top and fairly consistent across a number of surveys we've done around automation in the network. Reducing time to deploy network and services, lowering network TCO, getting into the cost, which is both CapEx and OpEx, and when we call it TCO, total cost of ownership, 39%, and then 36% improving overall customer experience. So interesting, always a mix of the external facing benefits, how is the customer experience going to be improved, how are the service improved, and then the kind of the internal or the network lowering cost. That's a pretty consistent theme in our automation surveys. Again, you know, kind of an interesting result that came in, all the talk about using automation to address skilled labor shortages did not actually last on the list of primary drivers. So another one we can debate and discuss, but from a survey standpoint, not really what's driving the decision. Again, these are fairly technical folks down in the building the networks. On the challenges side, and I think everybody has probably already brought up this issue to a degree, including Tele Columbus, complexity stands out as the biggest challenge to achieving a metro network automation strategy. Complexity of integrating automation tools within the existing ecosystem, and I think Michael gave this one a very kind of a clear description of what the issue is. You have networks for the most part that have existed for many years and generations. As you're introducing something new, in this case automation, how does it work with, and how do you bring that existing infrastructure forward as you introduce these new tools? And again, the tools and processes for managing the networks themselves, they're not in place. There's maturity issues with the technology itself. Those tend to be the big ones, again, across multiple surveys we've done around automation. These are becoming consistent themes on the challenge side. The last one I'll bring up, and then I'll bring in Tim to comment from Juniper's perspective. Whoops, sorry, let me go back one. Use cases. So we gave a list of multiple use cases and asked them to pick the ones that are primary. I think we allowed, I don't remember exactly, up to 2. It's multiple choice. You can pick multiple anyway. And I mean, one of them stood out in the group, service provisioning and activation, 44%. So clearly that's quite critical to many operators in the survey. But really the other thing that would stand out is just the number of them that have a lot of interest, 20% range for almost every one, 20% or higher for almost all of the ones listed. And this is also consistent with other surveys we've done around automation. When we give it a bunch of options, there's a lot of them come back as important. I think it speaks to, in part, the early stage we are with network automation, and operators are trying a lot of things and going to figure out where the best return is, and maybe the easiest to deploy going forward. But right now, we're seeing a pretty broad, a very broad view of how they want to implement automation in their networks. Juniper, Tim, I don't know from the Juniper side how consistent that is with what you're seeing with your own customers, but I'll let you jump in here to give some of your views, not just on the use cases, but on drivers and the challenges that your customers are experiencing.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I think the first bullet you see on the top left of the slide, right? Use cases, right? So depending on the particular customer and the particular focus in terms of where they are with the network evolution, which use cases are most important to them can vary. And so, I mean, generally, if we first of all, network automation we feel is fundamental to delivering a consistent and good experience for both the operators and the end users. So sometimes we can focus just on the end users and about making their operation, their experience of the services good, and certainly our experiences with the AI-enabled Mist in the enterprise. It was very much about the benefits that it brought to the services uptime and quality to the end users, but it's also about the experience for the operators running that network as well, that we try to drive here. You got like a manual or semi-automated network management-based solution, things like device onboarding, service activation, that can take a long time. Service deliveries can fail, network failure risk can be high, outages can be very costly, repairs can be very lengthy. So add to all of that, particularly in metro networks, increasing complexity of the network designs. You start introducing edge cloud and things like that there. the constant change in traffic patterns, and it just makes it almost impossible to keep up with the configuration changes that you require to guarantee levels in time and monitoring all of those services. So we tried to address with the Paragon automation all of those sort of challenges, but and desired business outcomes, but on a use case by use case basis. So we talk a little bit, you see that on the slide, about having an easy button for operations. So trying to enable the field technicians to consistently onboard without hiccups, and giving network operations engineers full visibility and insights to proactively prevent service impacting issues, enabling operators to navigate. And I know it was low on the thing, but certainly it varies by region, right? Certainly navigate shortages in skilled labor by boosting that productivity and increasing operational efficiencies. That's definitely an angle for some of our customers that's causing them to look at automation. So yeah, providing that sort of automated, consistent, reliable network with trust and compliance that you can confirm and quantify the trust aspects of the network as well. That assurance side of things is again another aspect. We talk about security, but just the assurance aspects and how you do that, providing those insights in ways that, with the AI enabled stuff, kind of detecting things and investigating things. It's just, I don't know, if you think about where we're going with our AI and ML, and if you think about the amount of data that we can get now from networks through the telemetry, doing sort of predictive trend analysis, anomaly detections, proactively spotting and isolating issues quicker than is humanly possible, particularly in some of these complex networks. Again, that's the other angle that we're trying to bring here with the AI enabled is super important. And it's definitely, again, the experience we had with the MIST automation and the AI enablement there. It's just bringing that visibility and bringing that analysis, because it's very, very difficult to do that in metro networks these days. The first thing you sometimes know about the issues is when the end customer is calling up and saying, hey, my service isn't working the way I expected, you're not meeting the SLAs. They're things that we want to try and get ahead of, and that's where the AI comes in. And then the last piece is really that observability. I mean, we've had, OEM capabilities in metro networks for a long time, and it's just about, we felt, taking it to a level beyond that. That, of course, is partly the NetRounds acquisition, but it has to be linked to the automation and the monitoring. So the network of automation with Paragon, so integrating, working by measuring what matters directly, so end-to-end service quality, and doing that by sending that small amount of synthetic, everything from layer 2 through layer 7 traffic on the data plane to simulate the actual end user services, and then proactively monitoring that in real time, so that you can continually and automatically validate the performance of that service, again, whether it be layer 2 all the way through layer 7, against the objectives you have for it. So all of this together, yes, it's use case focused, but the AI part of it is very important, and the business outcomes of that are very important. That's what matters to our customers. But which is the right focus? Yeah, it's varying very much from customer to customer that we talk with, and that's why you see such a long list of what's important.
Thank you. Let's bring in Ashita-san from NEC to give some of your views on automation.
Yes. So first, about the result of the survey, we are talking with multiple customers and also implementing the automation. And I think our feedback is almost same, especially based on the customer's feedback. So I think the customer is more for having the concern for the complexity because of the multiple integration. But one thing I see is that quite often operators are trying to start from the end-to-end automation, thinking about the complete automation from the beginning. But I believe that having the maximum ROI from the investment for the network automation, first we should identify what is the bottleneck to be improved for the best efficiency and also cost optimization, and realize the automation based on each operator's workflow. So I think, as Tim explained, the use case approach is quite important. So for example, as the let's say survey said, some are pretty much focusing on the provisioning of the service, for example, to monetize the enterprise service using the VPN. So for these people, it's very important to provision in the enterprise service in an agile manner so that they can win against a competitor. So the service provisioning is a number one. But others, for example, who already had the experience of, for example, big network failure, then they're more interested in the automated root cause analysis and maybe provisioning to minimize the downtime and also the risk for the network failure by the manual works. So it pretty much depends on each operator's needs and also the situation as well as the business model. So what I would like to say here is that together with, like say, robust automation solutions like Juniper's Paragon, it's very important to have the robust engineering capabilities for the automation. So for example, in case of us NEC, as we are system integrator having the telco and IT DNA, so we offer the automation engineering services to maximize the ROI for the automation. So it will be worth reviewing the, say, the strategy of each operator, considering how you would like to acquire the automation engineering capability. And maybe one way is just using a service like ours. So, and by the way, also like say we, say in case of us, we are also using the automation for the, like say our, say own services as well as say automation for the operators. So with this approach, we are driving the automation of the, say ourselves as well as the operators in the digital telecom transformation era. So I think using the automation for multiple purposes will bring more, say, the agility and also the, say, competitiveness in the market. So but that's what we are thinking as a, say, strategy for the automation. Very quick, that's all. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Just thinking about my earlier comment about the set of internal or network focused drivers and external kind of customer focused drivers. I think you made a good point that each individual operator is going to have their own set of pain points at that particular point in time. Is it the CEO is hammering them to boost profitability, then you're going to lend yourselves more towards the external benefits of automation. Or did you have, as you mentioned, a massive network failure that caused a big problem, and then you're going to go to some of the more reliability types. The scope of automation is quite clear that it can address all of those, and it's a matter of focus of the operator going forward. Good. We are pretty much right on time. I'll remind the audience again, we will have time for Q&A, so if you have questions, now's the time to ask them. We do have one section left to cover on coherent pluggable optics. Within optics, it's certainly arguably, and maybe not too much of an argument, the hottest topic within optical networks this year. If you've been to OFC and then the ECOC event, quite prominent in both. So we wanted to address that. I've got 2 data points, and then I'll let Tim from Juniper give their views on how they see the evolution. So expected impact of 400ZR and ZR plus coherent pluggable optics. So we asked both, but at the 400G level. For telecom, which is this audience, I believe it's going to be primarily the ZR plus iterations that are of interest. But we asked, how much impact do you expect 400G, ZR plus to have on your metro network in the next 3 years? And the majority of them expecting a significant role for coherent pluggables. We've been doing these types of surveys for a few years, so personally, I'm not very surprised that it is scoring so high in significance. It's been quite consistent over the past two years. As far as becoming the dominant interface, few believe it'll be the dominant interface, but in terms of significance, being largely deployed in the network, and certainly we don't show it here, but we asked it in the different ways you can deploy the pluggables in the switches and routers. The IP over DWDM iteration is a very high interest, not just to the hyperscalers, but to the telecom market for a number of reasons, not the least of which is lowering TCO. Barriers, there's always barriers. We like, as analysts, we like these types of questions and kind of like to put our vendors on the spot in terms of how they're going to address those. So we'll do that here. What are the biggest barriers to coherent pluggable optics and metro networks? The top one, lack of compatibility with existing. So again, back to that compatibility and integration issue. 45% and pretty much statistically tied costs, high costs of implementation of the top two barriers. Not too far from what we've been seeing and asking these questions the last couple of years. The lack of compatibility with the existing, there's different aspects to it. One of them is just simply you have a legacy router in the network and it's just not fitted to house the pluggable optics. That's one, but we're also seeing a lot of interest in just the manageability of third-party optics in a router. That's also, I believe, in the mix here in that compatibility issue. But a number of barriers, they need to be addressed, but as I just showed on the last slide, there's tremendous interest from operators in getting this done, which puts the onus on the suppliers, the components, and the systems vendors and I suppose the systems integrators as well to make that happen. Tim, I'll bring you in here to give some of Juniper's views on coherent pluggable optics and how you're addressing the issues and what your customers are asking for.
Thank you, Sterling. So first of all, here's a new acronym for you, CORA, so Converged Optical Routing Architecture. CORA, IP over DWDM, RON, you name it, right? So we like to create these new acronyms, but essentially we're trying to do the same thing here that I personally have been working on since, back in 2005-06 when we first started down this sort of integration of DWDM not just for very short links in access networks, but also for the sort of the longer links all the way through metro, regional, even backbone networks. So this has been a long road. And at the high end, we're obviously this is really fundamentally being driven by a desire to eliminate separate DWDM transponders, reduce network complexity, and TCO for operators. By eliminating elements in the link, if you like, the idea as well is that you also improve reliability of that link, which makes sense, right? If you've got less components along the path, the reliability should also improve. The challenge always has been, and this goes back, like I said, since we first started trying to do this, is generally in many network operators, you have two different groups. One is which is doing the optical transport, and the other one is just doing the routing or routing. And the management aspects of this, I mean, if we go back, the things like virtual transponders that we were coming up with back in the day, to try and give that different window and different view. If you've got an integrated transponder, if you like, within a router, how is that enabling the end-to-end management of the optical transport domain? And that's something that definitely is still very much front and center for people looking at deploying this today. Some of the other aspects we are improving on. So we kind of look at the architecture, essentially not too much change from what you would have seen over the years. You've got in our case, Juniper coherent optics, 400 gig ZR+. These optics, I mean, we are using QSFP DD form factor for these, allows customers to mix and match pluggables for supporting different reaches, different types of transceivers, and bit rates in the same line card or fixed system without sacrificing any platform capacity, which is a nice thing. If we look back in the day, when we had, coherent optics in CFP form factor, whereas we had, our quote unquote client side optics were much smaller form factor. Then whenever you went to DWDM, you were really impacting the density of the line card or fixed system that you could deploy. So definitely QSFP DD, ZR+, overcomes some of what were TCO impacting factors back in the day. Is it entirely true that we have the same density? Not really, right? So we have to bear in mind that that 400 gig client optics, these are way less power than especially if you're considering actually client optics in that QSFP-DD. Could also be QSFP-28, for example. You're talking about a tenfold increase, with ZR plus, especially 0 dBm ZR plus can be north of 20 watts. In some cases, even getting closer to 25 watts, right? Depending on the vendor. So looking after that power, looking after that cooling is definitely a challenge, and that's why you look at the 400 gig capable routers and switches that we show here across the family. We have specific hardware which is really optimized to do full density for these type of high power optics, and a lot of work has to go into the thermal and cooling aspects of those designs, as well as the power aspects. So yes, it is a frustration for sure for some of the installed base. They may have QDD cages sitting there, but even some of the newer products that we've seen on the market, being able to put a high power optic in every one of those cages is just not possible. The box will fall over. So something that we spent particular attention to in Juniper, and I'm sure our competitors also doing the same on newer products moving forwards. But certainly early 400 gig ports were not all ZR plus capable. I think if you look generally as well at some of the other questions raised in the survey, so yes, we have a lot of flexibility with the 400 gig ZR plus in terms of 500 kilometer metro, or longer distance regional, or even longer distance long haul. All of that is possible. Using them together, and I actually have a couple of slides later I'll share just in terms of some of the interop, using them together in brownfield DWDM infrastructures, also possible and demonstrated. Standards based now, so that you get multi-vendor interworking. And again, just I'll show it very briefly a couple of the highlights from some of the testing that's been done with EANTC and at OFC, just to demonstrate that we really are in a situation now where you can build these multi-vendor networks and everything will work together. I think the cost points, if you don't need 400 gig, the cost points are still not at the point yet where you can take a 400 gig ZR plus and just tune it down to 100 gig and expect to be in a right price point compared to traditional approaches. So I think the new 100 gig coherent optics, which are coming to the market, OFC this year, we had a number of vendors showing those. That will definitely help again increase the range of use cases that we can cover with this architecture. And then, of course, if we look to the future, we're talking already about 800 gig and beyond, 1.6T for the future capacity increases. So I think the range of reaches, the range of speeds from 100 gig all the way through 800 gig plus, it's making, whether you call it Cora or IP over DWDM or something, but it's making this architecture a real option for a much wider range of metro, regional, and core use cases.
Hey, Tim, I know you got a couple slides, but we are running into just about to get to
So the next couple of slides I'll cover very quickly if I can just jump to them. So first of all, from an automation perspective, so one of the things that we try to do with the Paragon is give that different view, the optical transport view as well as the routing view, and have that so that you can have with Paragon and with your IP transport controller that end-to-end view, and they're both getting the information they need. I think that's something really ties into the sort of virtual transponder approaches that we had in the past, but is giving that kind of multi pane of glass view for the different operational teams. And then if I can jump to the next slide. Oh no, I'm going backwards. No, here. And then just proof points, right? So interop both at OFC on this slide, and we have the deck available so people can look at this, but both at OFC and then in terms of some of the more in-depth interop testing that was done with the EANTC. If I can get that slide to come up. Yeah, here you go. Just showing the level of interop that's possible to give people confidence that these multi-vendor solutions can be deployed. And with that, I should probably stop talking. So.
All right, excellent. Sorry to rush you in the end. You had a lot of content there, but as you say, the audience will get the full deck. But yeah, very interesting sets of testing that have been going on throughout the year, including at the ECOC event, which just concluded. Let me just put up the summary slide here. Again, everybody gets the slide deck, so you can go through those at your leisure, but let me at least get one or two questions out. And thank you to all of our presenters. Really good material. I know we had a lot to cover in a short time. Question, Ashita-san, I'll bring you in since it relates to this last portion that we were just covering. On IP and optics, NEC is involved in both, and you are a systems integrator. Just looking for your views on the topic. How are you able to address, or what do you look to do in terms of the challenges that have been identified here for coherent pluggable optics? What do you tell your customers?
Yeah, so I think that survey said that, like, say, most difficult challenge is compatibility, right? But actually, to be honest, when we talk with customer, most of the difficulty is not the technical things, but rather about the organization things. Because that traditionally IP teams are focusing on the IP, and the optical teams are focusing on the optical domain. So they are working for the transport domain, but they are very separated teams. So when we try to promote or have the IP and optical convergent solutions, most of the times we don't have the right collaboration between these two teams. So well, we would like to recommend, and also what we are recommending to the operator is try to drive the IP optical convergence from the executive level, like the CTO or more network director, driving the simplification of network using the IP optical convergence. So I think the most important point for us is more about how we have the best setup for the IP optical convergence in terms of organization.
All right,
that's our view.
Thank you. Maybe Michael, since we have a service provider perspective, is that the IP optical, is that important to Tele Columbus? Is that something that you guys are investigating or doing?
Of course, it's important to basically uplift the performance on the entire IP core. So yes, it is. Nevertheless, it's also important that it's scalable, that it's cost efficient, and that we also have this sort of applicable liquid sort of bandwidth, especially in a very fragmented network. So yes, the answer is yes. This is absolutely relevant. But scalability and also efficiency is important. And last but not least, I think as an operator, it's also important for us that power efficiency becomes, a big agenda, especially when you have financial investors backing you, who of course seek to have sustainable investments in ESG.
Yeah, absolutely. Good points. And getting back to that sustainability issue, which translates at a very direct level to saving power and in space and the operational costs. We are just about at the hour, so we'll close out here. But I want to thank all of our presenters. Thank you, Michael from Tele Columbus, Ashita-san from NEC, and Tim from Juniper for your thoughts and insights. And special thanks also to Juniper for helping develop that Cloud Metro survey that was published in May. For the audience, you will receive the presentation, as well as you'd have access to the white paper itself, which goes into some detail on some of the topics that we've covered here. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Appreciate everybody's time. Thanks, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Thanks for hosting, Stelling.
Thank you very much.